So I was thinking about something earlier today at work, and I was in a serious meeting with an employee. I shouldn't have been thinking about this, but I thought about it anyway. I want to throw out this hypothetical and see if I'm the only person that would think this. If I was catfished by well, I don't know if it matters who it actually is, but in general, if I was catfished and I met said person and discovered that I was on the show, and I can't remember his name. Is it Adi? It's something. If they come out with the camera crew, and I realize that I'm on the show Catfish, I think I would prefer that ending. I think I would have preferred to be on the show Catfish than to actually have started a relationship with another human being. Am I the only person that believes this?
I'm not a fan of the show Catfish. I think it portrays the actual animal in a poor light. I'm a big fan of the food. What about you, Beardo? Do you like the food Catfish?
I've never tried it, but I don't understand how anyone can be catfished.
I don't either.
What is it? Hold on. I need you to expand on that. What does that mean?
Well, like if you're talking to somebody online, don't you want them to send you a photo at least, or like just say like, "Hey, wave to me in this photo," or like prove that whoever I'm talking to is somebody.
But think about how fucked up people are in this world. I mean, there could be someone that dedicates their entire life to just downloading someone's profile pics on Facebook. Someone can. I mean, it does happen, right? There's a bunch of weirdos out there. I think.
Yeah, but there's Skype and there's like FaceTime on a phone. Like we have all this technology where like you should be able to see the person that you're talking to.
Yeah.
There should be no excuse to be like, no, I have a flip phone from 1989.
I think what changes the game, it's actually Snapchat. Like, I think you're only going to have Snapchat if you're a real person. How do you fake a Snapchat? That's interesting to me.
I mean, the funny thing about this whole conversation is that none of us can see each other right now. So one of you could be catfishing me and I would have no idea. Is that you, Beardo?
Yeah, which one is which? Which one is which? Ryan? Snelling? What's your voices?
Yes, I'm Snelling. Jesus Christ, Beardo. I'm Ryan Snelling, Beardo.
Okay, and the other guy?
And I'm Jaye Williams. That's me, J to the A to the Y to the E. You can catch me every Friday on After Schmoe.
Okay, I'm going to try to get it down. All right, let's do this. We're recording now.
Get it down. Man, this is good. This is a lot more interesting than I thought. I thought all of this was an act, sort of kayfabe, like, hey, who's that Ryan Snelling guy? What's After Schmoe? I'm realizing in real time that is not the case, and that's making this a whole lot more fascinating. And
I don't know. I don't know who kayfabe is either.
I guess we're already kind of starting the show, which is totally cool with me. Welcome to After Schmoe. If you haven't figured it out, Beardo's on with us. And despite what Beardo thinks, this is a highly anticipated episode.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Whatever you say, Snelling. Let's just get down to brass tacks here. You haven't been shy. We talked a little bit off air before we started this episode. You're not thrilled to be here, and I'll give you a little bit of the fact that you're sick. You're just coming off of a sickness. You're going to be coughing throughout this podcast, but even without the sickness, you are not thrilled to be here, and I'm fascinated by this. What's going on?
No, I'm excited to be here. I want to be here. I want to be part of the Schmoeville, the Schmoe crew. That's what I want to do this.
I love this attitude because Jay and I, we do Sight and Sound, and I've done After Schmoe for almost 2 years.
Maybe he doesn't
now.
know that. He might not know that.
Okay, Beardo, do you know that I've hosted?
I know Sight and Sound. I know what that is.
It's the bigger of the two shows.
Yeah.
Oh, give me a break. Do you know, Beardo, that I have hosted this podcast for almost 2 years?
2 years. Okay, because that's what confused me. But then I don't know who else has been part of this show.
Okay, so I started what was originally called the Schmoeville podcast, and I think it was either February or March of 2016. And I left for a little bit, and then I came back, and it's been almost 2 years. I actually, about 2 years ago, this week I think is when I first met Ellis, and that was my audition.
You're the main guy. You're the guy in charge.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm coughing.
Yes.
But wait, okay. I know like one of you guys called into the Wanger Show when we first started the Wanger Show.
That was me.
That was you.
Yeah.
This is Snelling.
Yeah. This is
Okay.
Snelling, Beardo.
Okay. No, because every time anyone brings up like the After Schmoe, the Schmoeville podcast, like why would I care about a guy talking shit about me on a show that I do once a week?
So is that why you were so defensive immediately when Christian said, "Oh, they were talking about you on After Schmoe"? Is that why you got defensive and said, "I don't give a fuck" or whatever you said?
I think so, because I think I only hear negative things coming out of the show. I know you guys like critique it and like you have your notes and blah blah blah, but like I don't need someone telling me, oh, I did this wrong or oh, I did this right. You know,
Okay.
like I can feel for myself, like, yeah, I know that was shitty, or I know this was a good show. I don't need a guy to say like critique my every move.
Sure. Okay. And I want Jay to get in on this too, but
Yeah, Beardo, this is Jaye Williams here, co-host of After Schmoe. So
Nice to meet you.
no, I fully get what you're saying, because I've had that worry myself that you never really know what we're talking about over here in these parts. I think Ken is actually the one that says it the best. He kind of lets the quote unquote fans kind of do their own thing, and he doesn't need to go back and watch game tape or whatever. I think Ellis sort of has said that too in the past, that it's sort of like watching game tape of what I've already done, and it can be a little bit awkward, the stuff that we're doing from time to time. But one of the things that I took issue with, and we've hashed it out since, but with Mark, was that one time when our names were brought up on the show, he sort of took issue with something that we said, and that's all well and good. But one of the things that I think Ryan and I both pride ourselves on is the fact that we dish out as much praise as we possibly can to everybody there. Like we try to be super supportive. I sent you a DM not that long ago. I think it was the episode after Ken that you did, or the episode that you did with Ken, and I just thought it was such a fantastic episode. Being a creative person myself, and Ryan as well, I love hearing those conversations, the down and dirty sort of behind the scenes psychological stuff that you sort of get in with your show. So don't be scared, homie. It's all good. It's all good around
Thank
here.
you. Like, no, it's nice to hear like good things when like you say like when I get messages saying like, oh, like that episode really meant a lot to me, and I'm like, yeah, it's nice to hear that, but I don't need like people to sing my praises like every week.
Right.
Like and say like, oh, that was a great episode. Oh, that was another great episode. I know like which ones I like and which ones I don't like, and I kind of critique myself and how I can do better myself. And I don't take like praise that well, where it's like, really, is he like being facetious? Is he being a dick? Is he like joking about it? Or is he like honest and being truthful when he's saying that was a good episode?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think after a while, it just becomes a little bit redundant. And it's the same thing a lot of people say, and I learned this the hard way too. It's like you can get 300 great comments about an episode, and then one douchebag that says something, you're just like, you're only focused on him. So I definitely get that. But we'll get more into your show in a minute. We'll let Ryan keep doing his bit.
Oh, yeah, he's the host, right? 2 years guy, right?
That's right.
Okay.
I don't want to use Beardo as sort of a totem, as a representative of everyone else in the studio. I want to make sure that we're focused here on Beardo here. But would you believe me if I said that I'm actually very self-conscious about maintaining a positive image for people in that studio? Because I hate more than anything when people think that we are the shit talkers. Because Jay kind of already mentioned that we think and we hope and we believe that we offer something valuable as far as the discussion. Last week, we talked about diversity and how we love the diversity that Collider has brought into the space so far, and I challenged them to sort of pioneer it moving forward. And like that's the kind of stuff that we're doing here on the show. So I'm actually glad. I'm feeling a little bit better about you. I think that you are taking a liking to what Jay and I are doing here now, instead of having this shitty poor light shed on us. And
it's been like 5 minutes, so don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
What makes you say that?
It's been 10 minutes. But the other weird thing too is that, and I was thinking about. Actually, I've thought about it quite a bit. I want to know who in that studio, who in the Collider Video studio are actually like friends outside of work, like. Because Jay and I, especially after we saw your reaction on the live show about Christian forcing you to be here. I thought it was interesting because Jay and I have a relationship with Mark and Christian. We have I've done multiple podcasts with all of these people. We podcasted with RB3 and Ace directly and recently, and Jay and I kind of looked at each other like, if Beardo legitimately has an issue or doesn't care about podcasting with us, hasn't he at least talked to Ace and RB3, who we're somewhat friendly with and have this relationship with? I just thought it was so weird that you guys had never discussed that at all. So am I off in thinking that you guys are...
What?
Do you get what I'm going here?
Discussed you guys? Like, you think like we brought you up?
No. Well, I mean, maybe in that particular instance, like if Christian is talking about you being on After Schmoe, I would imagine that maybe you turn to Ace and go, "Hey, do you know these guys?" Or Ace could go, "Yeah, I was just on the show last week, and they know how to podcast." I'm not saying every single day you discuss this.
No.
I just meant in that particular instance.
No, I get it now. No, I don't know if I brought it up with him. I don't know if it came up afterwards. It was only like discussed between Christian and I, but everything else we're kind of like I only see them like on Wednesdays. Well, not anymore because the show is like on hiatus or whatever you want to call it.
You got fired. Let's be real.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, I'm only there for like a little bit, so I don't discuss like this show particular. I'm discussing like what we're gonna do for the Wanger show, or if I can find a guest for Beardo at all, or like what we're gonna do for Patreon or whatever. But like I'm not like discussing every show. Like I don't bring up top 10.
I'm trying to paint a very natural picture. I'm only concerned about us coming up in a natural way, not expecting you to always talk.
Who has not been on the show? Has Cobster and Cody been on the show?
Well, I was also kind of speaking in general. Like Ace was on After. Well, they both been on After Schmoe, but we recently also talked to them on Sight and Sound, and that's actually something that Jay and I talk about as well. Like we haven't really had guests on After Schmoe, with the exception of, well, every episode in 2018 so far. But we care very much about, like, if we're going to have you guys on, we'd like to have it in a Sight and Sound setting. That way we can actually talk about things instead of just, shining the spotlight on the Schmoes 24/7. We'd like to talk about Mr. Robot or Mother if it was going to be an episode with you. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, but you haven't had Cody or Cobster on?
No, but I would love to. I would absolutely love to.
I'm just curious, like, who you have had on, because I've only seen like Roca and Ken and Christian so far. And you're saying RB3.
Makuga was on once, but he acts like he wasn't, which is stupid. JTE was on.
Okay, but it's all under the After Schmoe banner.
No, under the After Schmoe banner, we haven't had any guests except you or Roca.
Oh. Okay.
We called Ellis on the phone once, and that was the extent of it.
So then why did Christian want me to come on at all? Like, if you guys aren't you guys, was it his idea or your guys' idea to have me come on if you guys aren't used to having guests on?
Well, Christian is, I don't know if you know this, but he's kind of a matchmaker when it comes to conflict resolution. And we've thrown shots at you. We've made jokes, but they've been kind jokes. They've been like jokes that we make about everybody. It's not just like a we hate Beardo thing. And that might have been where some of that negativity came from, right? Because Christian and Mark have talked about our jokes towards you because Ellis was actually pretty defensive. Like, they should tone it down. They should kind of ease up on Beardo. And Christian was talking about
what's the joke?
Let's see. We were talking about you did some kind of Q&A. And one of the questions they asked you, how should I get started podcasting, or what software should I use to get started podcasting? And we love that your answer was just immediately Pro Tools, which is one of the most professional software that you could possibly use.
Yeah,
and
it's probably not the best, because that's the first one I learned though from school.
Right.
Yeah.
See, that's the other thing too. Well, I do want to talk about you podcasting, and again, Jay mentioned we'll talk about Don't Be a Beardo, but the other thing too, the recent jokes were that you've run out of interviews, that you've bottomed out when your last interview is Max. That's it. That's the extent of it. But
oh yeah, was it your guys' idea to do the Q&A? Because I think someone said you mentioned it on your show, and then like Christian brought it up to me. He's like, "Hey, you should do a Q&A show." And I was like, "I don't want to do a Q&A show."
No,
And then-
I've made jokes that you've done Q&A shows because I said that your show ended up just being another movie review show, but that was the extent of it.
Yeah, because it's you don't know how it is to get a
It's
guest.
awful. It's the worst thing.
Getting a guest is the worst, especially
Yeah.
when you have a 9 to 5 and people don't have 9 to 5s out here.
Yeah, I was always curious about that. I've been out to California before, and I was out on vacation, and I thought at the time everybody else must be on vacation because I would just see random, like, I don't know, 35-year-old people just jogging down the street at like 2 o'clock on a Thursday. I never really understood that. What's up with that in California?
Yeah. They're either working, in quotes, actors who just wait tables at night and then audition all day. Audition and work out all day and then wait tables at night and hopefully bartend too and then make a living that way. None of them have like a real like office job. And that's what I have, like a
Right.
corporate job where I have to work, get up at 6 a.m.
Really?
I don't leave until now 6 o'clock p.m.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I mean, like we can both share in that sentiment, and I think it's kind of refreshing to hear. I mean, obviously, we probably all want to be living a full-time creative lifestyle, but I think it is very refreshing to hear that there are people who out in California, obviously I know this is the case, but to speak to you, somebody that works a 9-to-5 job has, I mean, I'm assuming you have like a dream and a hustle to sort of make a creative lifestyle your own. I mean, is that sort of the goal for you, is to sort of, you want to be able to quit the full-time job and just either make content or just be involved in making creative content in the future?
Oh yeah, that would be a dream if I can just work like 3 days out of the week and or just freelance whenever, like 1 week off and then 1 week go hard at like 12-hour days. But that's just like so chaotic to me, where I kind of like the 9 to 5 because I like having somewhere to go and I like having that steady paycheck. But if I could support myself with a job where I do get paid a certain amount of money a month, where I can afford rent and food and to go out. But yeah, I don't know what the dream would be. I think the dream would be to work at a podcast studio or some studio of some sort where I can just run the board and just create all these different shows throughout the day.
Right.
I'm curious, and to be for real here, when it comes to like Don't Be Your Beardo and sort of your placement on SK Plus, like how obligated do you feel to create the content for that network? Like, I'm just curious if do you see that as an opportunity, as a platform? Is SK Plus sort of one of those avenues that you're trying to take advantage of when it comes to boosting your career, or is it just kind of the thing that you're doing whenever you can get to it?
Like a launching pad almost.
Right.
Initially I thought it would be like something. I didn't think it would be something pretty big where I can like start a Patreon or like create my own show through it. Like for me, like everything I do now is just like practice to when I get older, and then I'm good at that, where I'm like, okay, now I can start making money off that. Right now I feel like nothing matters, even though it's like recorded and on the internet forever. But I feel like it's like I think Ken or someone says, like, when you do stand up, like your first 1,000 sets don't matter, or your first 100 sets, like you're just like practicing right now. And then once you do make it, once you do hit that stride, that's when you become something. Right now I feel like I'm just like not even in the minors. I'm just still like practicing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would argue that. I would kind of you're in the majors in the sense that you're in the majors of, you know, the film review community on YouTube, and I know that kind of makes it sound like it's dumbed down a little bit, but I'm actually not meaning that in any way. So what did you do when the show kind of exploded? Like, was it a newfound expectation? Did you feel more pressure? Because, I mean, Don't Be Your Beardo is a popular show on the network.
Oh, well, like when it exploded, like it started off slow, not real slow. I guess like the first couple shows were getting like 1,000 hits or something on YouTube,
I was gonna say, I mean, to me, it was a successful show from the get go, and it got a ton of attention. I mean, we joke about, people in the studio joke, and we might joke that it's another Harloff podcast or another Ken episode, but I mean, it's still a successful and quality show that you were doing there, and it's interesting that you just kind of started it as, oh, it's whatever. But then you have this newfound expectation because it was doing really, really well. And I'm, again, going back to the guest problem, I'm sure you felt pressure to get guests and maybe still do. So, I mean, was that intimidating, those first few weeks trying to make content?
The first few weeks weren't bad because I think I backloaded a bunch of episodes where I recorded at least 4. So I wasn't rushing. But there was a point where I was hustling. I was I got to get a guest by the end of this week. If I don't get one, I'm going to miss a week. And I'm stressing. I'm I can do it. I can record today. I got to record today. And eventually it just fell apart. But the initial shows, I started a podcast in 2013, 2012, and those shows would get 50 hits if anything, because it was just my buddies or my friends from back home. So getting anybody to listen, it was pretty cool to see hey, this show got 1,000 hits. But to me, that wasn't much pressure where it's oh, now I have 1,000 people listening. Now I have to up the show or be more crazy or do whatever. To me, it's just no, to me, 1,000 hits and 50 hits are the same because I'm critical of myself where I can feel after an episode, I'm oh, that episode wasn't that well or wasn't that good. And, I really enjoyed this episode. I can't wait to publish it. I put the pressure on myself every week for every episode, except for the Q&A episodes where I couldn't give a shit about.
Yeah, so you've talked about it before, and you even told me privately that you don't know if you need a spotlight on you. That's not what you're looking for when it comes to podcasting in general. So I question that a little bit, though, because I think that that you're good at what you do. And again, even though we were kind of making a joke about it, when you didn't have an interview, you still did a show. You were still doing the Q&As or discussing whatever movie was out. So I think that you give yourself more credit than you are actually admitting here.
I give myself more credit in what sense?
I think that you should give yourself more credit than you are admitting to. I hear you say that you're self-conscious of it being about you and you want to make it about other people, but just hearing you talk, I still think that there's a hustle there, and the fact that you were still willing and wanting to make more episodes despite not having a guest. And again, the quality of your content. So I think that you should give yourself a little bit more credit than what you actually are.
I don't know. To me, I never wanted to do a show by myself or with somebody that I wasn't interviewing. I think it happened. I forget which episode. There was a time where 2 weeks went by and I didn't put out an episode, and Christian was just he kind of gave me the disappointing dad look where he's you can't do that, man. That's you can't do that. You're gonna lose your listeners.
He does.
I get that all the time. I get it all the time.
Yeah, so he's he gives that to you, and I'm okay, I'll put out something, and I tried a Q&A, but I can't talk by myself. I get bored of hearing myself talk. I like to hear other people talk because I haven't gone through any experience that's I feel is worth talking about. I like hearing other people talk about their experience, like Ken or Makuga or all these guys who have been in LA for 10, 15 years now. I like hearing stories about Brett partying with people when he's dropping acid. I don't know if he dropped acid, but crazy stories like that. I like hearing about that and getting that out of people instead of me droning on about what I think about Blade Runner.
You would rather the content be about the person that you're interviewing as opposed to yourself.
Yeah, I don't see myself as I don't want to be a YouTube personality where it's
right.
These guys who want to be hosts and want to review movies and want to be on these panel type shows. I don't want to be on Movie Talk. I don't I like discussing movies, but I don't like talking about movie news or stuff that's going to happen in 2 years and maybe Batman's going to be this and whatever. I like hearing about other stuff and like I'm not like a hey everyone let's talk about me guy.
For sure. Yeah, and I think that's first of all I think that's super interesting, and I think it's very, very refreshing because I think we live in a time today. I think the modern content creator ambition is to build a personal brand. So it's actually refreshing to hear somebody say that I don't necessarily want it to be about me, but I do want to be creative. And I think a lot of people miss that boat. I think a lot of people that have this desire to make content, to make things, think that it just has to be about them. But there are tons of jobs, tons of positions in this industry, whether it be just, music, movies, television, whatever, that you can operate behind the scenes. Not everybody's made to be on camera or on a microphone, and there are those jobs out there. Now, what I will say about you is that I think, that's cool if that's what you want to do, but I think from Christian's perspective, at least, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I can understand where he's coming from. Like the most of us, we saw something. You're a great interviewer, man, and I know you don't like getting that praise and whatnot. It can be uncomfortable, and that's cool. But I think do you think that that's probably why he was pushing you forward a little bit? Was because he saw something a little bit special in what you were doing?
I knew he was being what is it? Not pushing. Just like trying to get me to do more shows, because I know like when people who start podcasts, they lose steam like
Right.
a few weeks in. And you need that push to like keep going and keep going. And I
get
was
it.
like, like everyone goes through that during like doing a podcast. You're like, really, we have to do another one this week? And I was getting to that point in my shows where I was interviewing people, and I was like, I'm just like repeating myself. I'm just going through the steps right now. Like I don't care about not necessarily the guest that's on, but like the story, because it's the same story again. Of like, hey, I moved to LA, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I feel like I was just like going through the motions as opposed to like getting something real out of the guest. And but no, Christian likes to like motivate you.
Mm-hmm.
He wants you to do well, like otherwise he wouldn't. It's good that he cares, because otherwise he'd be like, oh, who fuck that guy, like he can do whatever he wants. Like he cares about what's getting put out there. But yeah, I don't know what my point was there.
Well, I think, just speaking to the fact that that's why he was sort of pushing you a little bit. I mean, have you had that conversation with him that I'm not really interested in that, maybe to sort of get him off your back a little bit? Or are you just like, yeah, sure, boss, I'll go ahead and do this?
Interested in what? In like doing my own, like being my own personality?
Yeah, like have you had that conversation and be like, man, listen, I feel more comfortable a little bit more behind the scenes as opposed to being the guy on the microphone?
No, I do like interviewing people. Like I wish I could just like have my own studio where like a Mark Maron or Joe Rogan, where like guests can just come in and I can just like shoot the shit with them for like 2 hours. Because I do like talking to people, and I do like opening up with people or having people open up to me. But it's just tough with guests, and it's like I've had shit. It's like shit happen where like I'll record an episode, and then people don't like what they said on the episode, so they have me send the file over so
Right.
they can go through it and give me all these edits and take it all out. And I'm like, dude, like, just why did you just not say that on the show? Or I literally recorded a whole episode and it wasn't published because they didn't want it to get published. So I'm like, okay, whatever.
Wow.
And then I had another guest where they're like, no, I don't want to be on Beardo's show. He's mean to his guests.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah, so I'm like, fuck this. Like, people
man.
are too sensitive over here. Like, I don't give a shit anymore.
Well, here's
I'm
the
just gonna go be on the Wanger show and fuck around for a bit.
Yeah, the good
To,
news with us is that we're from Kentucky, and we voted for Trump, and you can't offend us. I'm just joking. That didn't happen. But
No, that didn't happen.
but we're not.
But aren't you afraid that people are gonna comment and like take you seriously and like talk shit about you?
You know
and
what
be like,
though? Here's the thing with that. Like and Ryan will tell you that I'm very nonchalant about most things. My I didn't coin the term, but my motto is it's just a thing. But that's not everybody's mentality, and I'm aware of that. I think it becomes a little bit patronizing when people are just walking up to people and saying, don't worry about it, it's not that big of a deal. Well, life would be a lot easier if everybody was the exact same and we could take things with a grain of salt. But that's just not how it is. Some people have bad days, some people have good days. And I'm a little bit more carefree about stuff, but I totally get the point where people might be a little bit more self-conscious by a negative comment or people getting on your case about what you said on a podcast.
Yeah, and it drives me nuts, Jay.
You're more sensitive. You're a little bit more sensitive about it than I am.
Yeah, it's always great when I'm freaking out alone by myself, and you're just like, it's not a big deal.
Right.
It's a great contrast we have here. I'm still baffled at what you said about the guests wanting to delete their shit, because I've been podcasting.
But I think it's like you said, like people want to protect their brand. They want to they want to like have this persona, and I'm just like, why did you tell me that then? Like you knew we were recording, and they're like, I got in the moment. And then they send it to Christian. They're like, hey Christian, what do you think? And then Christian's like, you got to do what the guest says. I'm like, all right, I'll take it out.
Well, for one, I don't know if I would technically agree with that, like as a blanket statement. Maybe in that particular case I get it, but I've been podcasting for like, I don't know, 3 years, and I've usually told every guest, I didn't give you the courtesy, I forgot, but I usually tell every guest like, hey, if you want me to cut anything out after the fact, maybe you accidentally said something you shouldn't have, let me know. And in all the years that I've done this, I've never had anyone actually tell me that they wanted me to go back and do something. And Jay and I in general are just transparent as personalities and as hosts, and I put personalities in quotes there. We're pretty transparent, so I guess it's just easy for me to forget that there are people like that out there, like you described. It's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's happened a couple times where it has to be escalated to Christian, where he has to be the deciding factor.
It was Ellis, wasn't it? Let's name names. It was Ellis.
No, I can't remember the names, but it's happened a few times.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer, but I think I can relate to you in the sense where I'm similar to you. I come from the podcasting school of Joe Rogan, where he can get on the microphone for 3 to 4 hours completely unedited. And I think when I got into this whole thing, I ended up having that in my mind, like, yeah, I'm going to get guests. We're going to podcast for 3 hours. We're going to talk about, drugs and really racy shit. And I think I'm still looking. In fact, congratulations, Beardo. You're my first guest, because it's really fucking hard to get people to show up and podcast on a microphone with you.
Oh, you still haven't had a guest on?
No, I'm joking. But we've had some guests. Okay, give us some credit. But the fact that we live in Kentucky and in the middle of nowhere, and people are still asking me that they don't even know what a podcast is. Do you feel like podcasting in general is becoming a little bit oversaturated to the point where it's harder to make a splash?
Oh, it's definitely oversaturated. Like, as opposed to like a few years ago, like everyone, it used to be a lot harder to create your own podcast because you needed to create an RSS feed and like upload it to iTunes. You needed to go through like some coding a little bit.
Yeah, you had to have coding knowledge.
Yes, but now it's just like, hey, you sign up for SoundCloud or sign up through something, and it just gives you the feed, so anybody can do it. And anyone thinks they can do it, where it's like, no, you're creating a show. It has to be entertaining. It has to be something worth listening to. It has to be something that people want to tune into. It's not just like, we're going to sit around and fuck around with each other because people want to hear this, right? No, but everyone has a show now, and everyone has a thumbnail, and everyone does the same shit, reactions and all these reviews and everything. It's all the same.
Amen.
So what's your solution? What's your idea? How do we thin the herd here?
I don't know. I think it'll eventually get thinned out with views. And I think like the clickbaitiness, hopefully that'll go away, where it's like you click it just because of the title and you want it. Like Joe Rogan's doing it right, where like he's getting millions of hits because the content is good, because it sounds good, because the stories are interesting. And I don't know. I think what's the saying? The cream will rise to the top.
Yeah,
something like that. And,
the cookie will crack at the top. Yeah.
And then the rest will crumble.
I think honestly, time is just what gets people. I mean, either people get sick of doing the same thing for too long, or like you said, they see things drop off and they get discouraged, and it's the people that just push through that and stay consistent. I mean, Rogan's done over 1,000 episodes now, so I think that's it speaks to that. I do want to transition real quick, unless Ryan has anything else, just to talk a little bit about some of the guests that you've had on the show. Ryan, did you have anything else before I get into this?
The only other note I have as far as questions go is just Beardo, are you okay? Like, how are you? We're 35 minutes in. Are you doing all right?
Like in life or on this episode?
No, here, like on this episode. How you doing? You feeling good?
I'm
feeling
good.
all right?
I'm just coughing a little bit.
I should take some.
You got a
take some
cough drop
Robitussin.
beside
No,
you?
I don't. I have NyQuil, but
I
I'm
could
gonna take
have
that
got
later.
you some from work. I'm sorry.
Just
Okay, Jay,
Just
go
have,
ahead.
have you some tea. Yeah, listen. I'm a fan of your show. I think you do a fantastic job, but you don't want to hear it.
We both
you,
are.
You don't
We
want to
both
hear
are.
it. No, you don't want to hear about that though.
Thank you.
Listen, I want to know, and I want you to be honest, 100% honest. I don't want any sort of bullshit like, oh, I like them all. I want to know the episode that you did that you walked away from surprised at the content that you got. Maybe not necessarily the content, but even the reaction that you got.
Reaction from myself or from the people?
For you walked away from the episode and said, "Man, I did not expect it to go where it went."
My episode with Ellis, I really liked. That was like maybe my fifth one in. Like I had only done like Wangers before that, like RB3, and I think I did Ace and Cody and Copster, and I think he was number 5 or 6. And with Ellis, like he's so cool, and he opened up, and I was like, whoa, I don't know anything about his father or all that, and like we got into really deep shit, and he said it was only gonna last like an hour or so, and it lasted like a little, maybe over an hour and a half. But that was the episode where I'm like, hey, maybe I'm onto something here. We're like, he was a really good interview. And he didn't mind staying longer than was needed.
And that's interesting too, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you saw him as a comedian prior to working at Schmoe's, correct?
Yeah, I saw him at the Comedy Store like 2014, 15.
So how cool was that for you? Because I know that you are really passionate about stand-up just in general, whether it involves Ellis or not. So how cool was that to be able to get to interview and get to hear about some of that Comedy Store stuff?
I was like, that was the most prepared I've been, because I read the book about the Comedy Store, the I'm Dying Up Here book, and I know a lot about the Comedy Store. I listened to Mark Maron's podcast about the Comedy Store, so like I had all these questions ready for Mark about the Comedy Store, and that was why I had the most fun, because he's been working there forever. He's been in LA forever, and that was like one of the funnest interviews I've had.
Yeah, the episode for me that impressed me the most, and this is the one that I DM'd you about, but it was the Ken episode, and that was particularly because, Ken, I'm sure people know this, but if you didn't know, Ken is a seasoned radio host, and he's also very upfront and honest about his state of mind, his mental health, and whatnot. And that's something that I know that you talk about with your guests a lot, whether you mean to go there or not. And the fact that I think, or at least I took away from the fact that you sort of impressed him. I know it was sort of hard to get him on the show. I think you had to swoon him with a Rode microphone, but the fact that he ended up enjoying and opening himself up so much on that episode was very impressive, and just to hear his story. What do you remember the most about that episode?
From him, I just remember learning that he was like a cop, a mall cop, for like a lot longer than I thought he was. Like, I think he was like he was doing that job up until he got the Screen Junkies job. I
think doesn't he always say it was like 23 years or something like that?
Yeah, but I thought he would have had some other type of job out here. Like,
right.
It was interesting to him, or to hear him talk about going through all the comedy schools, like I don't know if he went to UCB or IO or something, and doing all the classes with like Kristen Wiig. And then it's just like devastating to hear like everyone kind of got passed and he just got like left out. And then I'm just like, where do you go from there? But I remember, okay, now I remember the reason I wanted to interview him, because there was a point where he moved back home, and I wanted to know why, and I wanted to know why he came back and what his plans were, and like if he ever plans to move back or to do anything. Like I don't know. That's just interesting to me because like being in LA, like how do you know when to fold them, and how do you know when to like settle down somewhere else and not rent out a 1-bedroom and trying to chase your dreams? And that whole aspect of like moving back home is just interesting to me.
Man, I would do anything, I think, to see Ken Knapsack in his prime doing stand-up. I would kill to see Knapsack doing stand-up back then, and I would kill to see Christian do stand-up now.
Yeah, it's crazy that you had it's crazy that Christian and Mark's name are on the Comedy Store wall, and it's crazy to think that Harloff was a big stand-up back then, because now like he's still funny, but he like when you see old videos of him just like going crazy and ranting and just like jumping around stage and everything, it's crazy to think that now he's just the guy that does like movie talk and talks about Star Wars and stuff.
Now he's just that boring dad.
Yeah, he's got the dad bod doing Star Wars.
I think he's got a great dad bod. I can appreciate that. The fact
it's a good dad bod.
The fact that I'm 30 now, I can appreciate that. I have 2 more questions about your shows that you've done for Don't Be a Beardo, but what was one guest that you wish you had more time with, or that you thought, maybe you cut it short a little bit too soon? And I don't want you to say Josh McCouga, because I know that episode was shorter than you intended it to be, but who do you wish you had more time with?
I know Grace's got cut too soon because I had to work after that. That would have been fun. I wish I would have like known Grace more, because I think I just like met her on that show. I think it would have been interesting to know her beforehand. And then Matt Nost would have been. I think
that was a good one.
He had to leave early too, and it would have been great to have him back.
The episode that I thought to myself, I don't know how this is going to go, because this person has a good poker face, I think, was Perry Nemiroff. I think for me personally, she exemplifies like everything that is professional at Collider. Like every time she has a take, it sounds like it's been written down, thought out, edited, and she just has fantastic takes, and she's very just professional on air. So to see her get personal like that on your show was fascinating to me. And was she a little bit, to take Ryan's word, was she a tough cookie to crack?
No. No, with her, she was pretty cool too. Like, I hit her up like the week before. I'm like, hey, can you do my show? She's like, yeah. Can you come to Collider and on this day? I was like, I'll be there. And then she just opened up immediately. I like, she's so, like how you said, she's so professional, and she knows like how to broadcast and how to speak and everything. And everything's so eloquent. And I liked learning about. I didn't know she went to NYU. I didn't know she went to like Columbia and has like a master's degree and everything. And I just like loved learning about all that stuff, and she was so good at it. I remember that episode flew by for me. I think it's like over 2 hours, but like to me, it was really quick.
By the way, if we're talking about fortune cookies, that whole thing works. So I know that you're outside of Collider in the sense that like you're only there on the Wednesday nights when they're doing the live show. So when you're talking about people like Perry, and I mean this in a serious way, do they even know who you are? What does that mean to Perry or to anyone else when they're asked to be on Don't Be a Beardo?
It's tough to like gauge that, because I don't know unless they've been on the Schmoe show and I like talked a little bit to them on the Schmoe show. But it's tough to be like, hey, does Wendy know who I am? Like I've introduced myself to like Jeremy Johns a couple times, but
what about Dennis? Does he know who you are?
I doubt it. I don't talk to him at all. I don't think he knows who I am. Yeah, it's tough to like know exactly. So it is weird. That's why like it is weird when I'm like, hey, do you want to be on my show? Like I've asked Snep on, and I was
about to say, have you ever interacted with John Snep before?
Only through email, and there would be times where I'm like, I'll be at Collider, and then he'll not be there, and he'll email me, oh, I didn't know it was today. And so, okay. And then I'm just like, okay, whatever.
It's just kind of baffling to me because the impression that I'm getting, and sort of I'm obtaining this throughout this episode, it's like going back to my original question, like what are the friends groups inside of the studio? It really feels like that when those people enter that building, it's only business. Like maybe
I really don't know because I'm only there on Wednesdays,
Right.
but I'm sure if I was there like every day, I'm sure I can develop a relationship with them and then ask them to be on my show. It would be a lot easier. But I have no idea. I think Snep leaves at like 3. I have no idea.
Have you interviewed Robert Meyer Burnett?
No, I don't even. I've never spoken to the man.
I would really I think you should really do that episode. If you're willing, reach out to him. I think he would be an amazing guest because I sort of have a crush on him in general. We're big Robert Meyer Burnett fans on After Schmoe. I would love to hear him on Don't Be a Beardo if you can make that happen.
Why don't you just get him on your show?
There you go.
There's a weird, goofy history with that. I asked him several times, and we had a lot of back and forth. And on the day, several times on the day of, he just wouldn't respond. But he would respond any other day, like, "Oh, I would love to do the show. Let's do this, blah blah blah." And then the day of, he would just completely flake out. And it was just the weirdest interaction, and I gave up after like 3 tries.
Yeah,
Strange.
that's happened to multiple people with me.
Yeah.
Or silence on the day of, and like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And then the day after, oh, sorry, I was working. And, okay,
Yeah.
of course you were.
It's tough.
Well, you gotta think that some of those people probably. I wonder how sick they get of like appearing on podcasts, and it's not a personal thing. It's not a thing towards you, but I wonder if it's just one of those things where they're actually saying yes, and maybe they don't actually want to because they do it so often. It's kind of like I'm a little self-conscious of. Because, on Sight and Sound, I can review a movie. I mean, I can put out a movie review podcast, but I would be self-conscious to ask Mark Ellis to be on my movie review podcast because he already does that for a living. So I wonder if there's a little bit of that there too.
Yeah, probably. I don't know what people are thinking. If I'm just like, if they don't want to come on and talk about random shit or talk about themselves. But there are people that like to talk about themselves here in LA, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was going to say, I feel like Makuga would do your show any day.
Maybe. He was expecting it to be like a half hour long. He's like, oh, I got to go in like a half hour. I'm like, okay. And then I tried to push as much as I could, and I got out what I could of that.
Classic Makuga.
Jay, I've got... What'd you say, Jay?
I said classic Makuga.
Right. Jay, were you out of questions? I got one more, and I figure we could do some quick Q&A from Schmoeville.
Yeah, I did have one other thing that I wanted to sort of touch on, and that's the sort of the current state of Schmoes Know. I know you.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
that.
well, that's why we work well together. I know you said before that doing the live show is one of your favorite things to do. It's something that you look forward to every week. With the current state of the show, only doing a live show once a month or whatever the case may be. I mean, how bummed out about that were you? Were you bummed out about it? Does it, the rest of the cast, are they bummed out about it as well?
It kind of sucks, like knowing that you don't have anything to do on a Wednesday night. Sorry, but now, like once it happens, like twice. Like once 2 weeks go by when you have a Wednesday night open, it's like, oh, I can go to a movie tonight. But yeah, it does suck that because it was fun. It was like an event. Like we all got together and we had a show at 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I think. And yeah, it's just, but you can like kind of feel that it was heading that way because like some people weren't on the show for a while and some people would be here for this week and not for that week. And like it was just kind of like fading away. And we're like, where's the show going? Like, do people even care about this anymore?
Now, were other people saying that, or were you thinking that?
No, I was thinking that because it's like whenever I come in on a Wednesday, I would have to ask like, who's on the show today?
Right.
Like, what music do I need? Is Brett going to be on today? I know Brett was sick for a while, but there's other factors. So I'm just like, does anyone want to be on the show anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like, I'm sure the shows are going to continue with like, I think they're going to do event films like Like when Black Panther comes out, I'm sure we're gonna do a show. I have no idea.
So I guess one of the things that we were sort of bringing up on our show that we were sort of there were a lot of fans that were feeling the same way. They kind of bummed out they're missing the live show, but the way we sort of spun it was the fact that, maybe you're not going to get the live show every week, but man, are you going to look forward to the next time that you do have it? Do you think that from now on, maybe that those live shows are going to be even more special the next time you come back?
I hope so, because I think that last show was really good.
I agree.
Yeah, like that was I think the last show where like we had everybody in and everyone just had a good time because they hadn't seen each other in a while. And I felt like just felt like a fun show because everyone was like busting each other's balls and just like laughing at each other. And because it hadn't been done in a while. And yeah, I think people will look forward to it, and it will be an event as opposed to like, oh, we got to do this again next week.
Cool. Yeah. That's all the questions I've got, Ryan. You want to hit up some Q&A stuff?
Yeah. Is Don't Be a Beardo going to become less of a thing because of that, though?
What do you mean? Like I won't be able to like do it because I don't see anybody over there?
No. Well, yeah, not necessarily your ability, but like, is it just on the back burner more so when you don't have a reason to go there and like keep in touch with any of those guys at all? Like, do you care? Are you afraid about that? Or
yeah, I don't know how Don't Be a Beardo is gonna like go or. Yeah, I have no idea about the future of it because I don't see anybody. I don't talk to anybody over there. Like it's not like I hit up like Makuga or somebody and say, hey, let's go out this weekend, and like I don't see them, so I don't know. Like, and I have to be able to see them to like interview them or to ask them to be interviewed.
What about Copster? Do you hang out with Copster at all? I mean, he was your friend before all of this.
Not really on the weekends. No, he kind of does stuff for like his family and his girlfriend, and I do stuff with my girlfriend. But and Cody's got his wife, so like everyone's kind of like separate.
Never get a girlfriend,
Man.
Ryan.
I was gonna say it just sounds like the worst. God, yeah. I want nothing more than to hear that you've just spent an entire weekend with Copster doing nothing but playing video games. I mean, that's just depressing. When do y'all do Wangers? Do y'all record that on the weekend, or is that done in the middle of the week?
It used to be on the weekends, but now I think we're gonna do it like Mondays or Tuesdays. Because we have the Patreon now, so we have to like do it enough time to release it early on Patreon.
You should do it on Wednesdays in place of the live show.
Yeah, I would. I think I brought it up to Cops. Like I would love to do like a live Wanger show, just because like it would be weird and crazy and dumb.
Just like hijack all of Schmoeville. Just like, hey, you missed the live show? What we're doing over here? Fuck those Mark and Christian guys.
Yeah. Yeah, but now like also like I love doing like sketch videos or like short videos. I love like creating stuff like that. So like podcasting is fun and all, but I love creating little videos and doing that. So I enjoy that more, and I think those are going to be done on the weekends, and then podcasting is going to be during the week. I don't know. It's just really busy.
I did this like 3 hours ago. I put out a notice that we were going to take some Q&A questions in Schmoeville. And again, I know I did it last minute, but nobody is asking questions here. They're just talking. And so I've got like two things to ask you here, Beardo.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Like when we put out questions for like the Wanger Show or Beardo, like it's all the same questions. Or it's like joke questions. It's like I can't use this at all to talk about anything.
It's just what is this? Kristen Smith just put the word finally? That's not a question.
Yeah.
It's a response.
And then you get the classic movie questions. It's like, don't you get enough of this on Movie Talk? Why do we have to talk about movies all the time?
It's like Graham, he asked if we use the same beard trimmer. It's like I don't know what to do with that.
It's people trying to be funny, and that's why I give them shit on the Wanger Show. I'm like, these questions suck.
Shame on you, Graham. Shame on you. Okay, let's go with Brad Donovan. This is the best question, believe it or not. What kind of music do you like?
I listen to different things. I listen to Turbo on Sirius XM, which is like 90s hard rock. And Alt Nation, so like kind of like rocky kind of type music.
Okay.
I've been listening to Red Hot Chili Peppers for the past few days.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I love them.
I dig it.
You Nirvana fan
What
at
about
all?
like
Yeah, I like Nirvana, but I haven't listened to them in a while. I think I like when I liked Nirvana, I listened to them so much, or I just got like sick of Nirvana because I knew every like lyric to everything.
How old are you, Beardo?
I'm about to turn 28.
Okay, so you're like a mild '90s child.
Yeah, I was born in '90.
Wait,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we were born the same year. We're the same age, Beardo.
I thought you were 30.
No, that's me. That's Jay. This is Jaye Williams from After Schmoe.
Okay. Yeah.
Jaye Williams is 30, and I'm 27. I'm Ryan
Okay.
Snelling, and I host After Schmoe.
Okay. With
Very
the
good.
David's guy.
Who do you think would win? This is a fitting question. Who do you think would win in a death match between the three of you? I think that one of the biggest factors here is that clearly out of the three of us, I'm the most emotional. So I don't know if that's my biggest strength, that I could probably get extremely pissed at both of you. But that, again, the emotions, it might make me a little bit less logical when trying to defeat you. So I'm either the first to go or the last one standing. I don't think I'd be the middle one. What do you guys think? Jay, who would win in a death match between the three of us?
I would probably just dip out. Just be like, I'm good. I don't really.
Yeah, well, you would say it's just the thing.
Yeah, I don't
and
really
then
want to
leave.
participate. I think you would crumble under the pressure of it all, if I'm being honest with you.
I have been punched in the face before, and I was on the ground, and the guy was on top of me. That's kinky. But anyway, I don't know if he was trying to hit me again, but I just said get off instead of hitting him back. So
Have you ever been in a fight,
that's
Beardo?
what I'm like.
No, I have not.
Do you want to be in
Have
one?
you ever been hit in the face?
No, I have not. I've like scuffled with like my brother, like when we were really young, but like nothing like crazy.
Have you ever wanted to?
Has Copster ever?
I was about to say, have you ever wanted to beat up Copster before?
No. I
I was gonna ask him if Copster's ever hit him in the nuts or anything, because they're best friends.
No. That's never happened.
Oh. It might be a Kentucky thing, I guess.
I feel like Cody's like a little Jack Russell. He'll nip at your ankles or something like that.
No, he'll just stand on the side and make like sarcastic comments.
Oh, it's like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just Jay. Beardo, this has been a real treat. I'm gonna let you go. Jay and I are gonna talk a little bit about Harloff and Ellis, but I do want to thank you for coming on. I hope that you feel better about this whole situation, this whole thing, and this gig that Jay and I have going on over here. Earlier this week, it was announced that the Wangers are doing some stuff on Patreon, and you are involved in this. Is that correct?
Yeah, I saw there's a question saying like, why haven't I been on? And
Yeah.
and I've missed 3 weeks, and 2 of the weeks were my fault, or not my fault, and 1 was my fault. 1 week they recorded because they were off at work and I wasn't at work, so they recorded during the day. And then this past week I was sick, and then one of the weeks I went to a Clippers game. That was my fault. But yeah, I'm part of their Wanger Patreon.
It was
I don't know what we're doing with it, but it's doing something.
It was believed that you were going through a sex change in your time off, so I'm glad that you were able to clear the air. That's
That's that crazy Copster humor.
no, it's apparently Samantha's humor in the.
I think Copster brought it up. I think that's what he joked about on the Wanger Show. You guys don't watch the Wanger Show, do you?
I do.
Okay.
I watch it. It's only Ryan and Christian that don't watch it.
I do sparingly. I do every now and then. But I'm in general, and I've even talked about this with Frank Janish. We were talking back and forth, and I mean, we just admitted to each other the other day that we just don't listen to each other's shows. And like, if a show debuts on SK Plus, then I'll listen to it. That way we can talk about it on SK Plus. But it's interesting because I've kind of cornered myself in J2. I mean, we do the show that requires all of this homework. So by the time I'm done watching Collider and Schmoes in general, then I barely have time to listen to what I actually listen to, like in my actual everyday life, and like Dan Le Batard and things like that I try to get in. And so SK Plus is just unfortunately sort of the back burner. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think it was like a requirement to like listen to like every show that's on there, because like I do listen to like other shows like Howard Stern and stuff. Like I listen to like broadcast shows. Like I didn't know it was a requirement to, because I'm on the SK Plus channel, I have to listen to like every show.
Oh no, you don't have to, but we have to. We have to.
Yeah.
We're That's what we do here. We don't just. It's not just. I don't even know if you know this. That's fine. We'll advertise to you. We don't just break down the Schmoes Know show, the Schmoes Know stuff. We also break down SK Plus stuff. We break down Collider stuff, and we do deep dives into business and search engine optimization, as Joelle noted one time. So yeah, Beardo, if you ever want to listen, that's cool. If not, that's cool too. I get it. It's not your
So
thing.
do you guys listen to like the top 10 and like critically acclaimed and like all those shows and like talk about all of those?
Sometimes, not always, not every single week. It's usually we sort of pick out the highlights every single week.
Yeah.
See, that's too much. I only have so many hours in the day.
In general, if there was one show that I think I am a fan of, regardless of if I'm involved with SK Plus or not, it is Top 10. But even that, I don't do it weekly. But in general, like I'm watching a lot of things just so I'm staying up to date. And it is, again, primarily the Collider content, not so much SK Plus. And even with Schmoes, it's like we have nothing to say about their movie reviews. We're not doing any of that. We're not commenting on discussions that are had here. So, like, even on the Schmoes Know show, if you guys review Thor Ragnarok for 30 minutes, Jay and I have nothing to offer there. Like, we're not discussing the discussion. It's more so the highlights and the notable points that are made. And again, talking about like diversity last week and things like that. It's just, and we try to approach it as Jay and I try to offer what the people outside of the bubble are thinking. And
yeah, that's what I wondered. Like, you guys, like, when I hear about the show, I'm like, how much can you talk about Schmoes? Because like, we didn't really talk about anything on the show.
Yeah.
But then I hear like you guys talk about the stuff that like not other fans don't really like. Where like you see comments on YouTube like they didn't talk about Star Wars until like 45 minutes in, but then like that's the stuff you guys like, right? Where like we talk about like what's going on in our lives.
Yes.
Or
yeah. Well, there's two sides of it. There is like what Ryan Snelling prefers, and then there's also what's good for After Schmoe. So yes, of course, I want to know what all of your all's thoughts are on Thor Ragnarok, but when it comes to After Schmoe, it doesn't do anything for After Schmoe, and that's not even a criticism. It's just the reality, right? Like Jay and I. It's pointless to discuss your all's discussion unless, someone is racist and then we talk about it.
and then we provide commentary as well towards the community even. Like when TV Talk got canceled, there was this huge uproar in Schmoeville and in the community about it going away, and we sort of put the community on blast for making it way bigger of a deal than it was, and we sort of break down that stuff as well.
Yeah, I think that's cool that you guys are like the show where like the fans come together and they talk about everything going on in the world of Schmoeville.
For sure.
I'd like to think so. Like I said, I'd like to think that we offer sort of an outside the bubble voice for Mark and Christian, but at the same time, I'd like to think that we are the voice of Schmoeville, or maybe at times, like Jay referenced, maybe we are a voice that Schmoeville needs to hear from. And even the Facebook group, that's another way that we get content too, because we're able to see what people are talking about. So it's a valid question. How much can these guys sustain a show that's about Schmoes Know? And it turns out at least 2 years of content has been done so far. So yeah.
Do you know anybody who's a fan of Schmoes but not After Schmoe?
Most people.
A shit ton of people, yeah. A majority, 90%.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't think that even the Facebook group of Schmoeville, I would assume that we have a minority of that group, which is a much smaller representation of what the people that follow Schmoes know. So it's minimal, but and that's why we appreciate all the help that we can get when it comes to being promoted on the live show, because again, Jay and I, we don't care for the negative persona. We'd like to think that we have something to contribute and offer, and I guess we're sort of stating our case here with you. But yeah, we would love if more people got involved with the show. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. This has been slightly less painful than I thought it would be.
Did we crack your cookie?
I guess so. If that's a word or that's a phrase or something.
This has been
Brian
awesome.
Snelling, are you validated in your metaphor?
Yeah, I feel really good about it. I feel really good about the metaphor, and I feel really good about this episode. I think it was very delightful, and I'm glad that you feel better about all this.
Oh, can I say something too? I don't know if you guys brought it up or it was in Joelle's notes where she asked me if I take notes or research my guests beforehand. It must have been her because I don't know if you guys brought it up. Like I do try to research as much as I can about the guest before I have them on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to go in cold. I like to like creep through their Twitter feed or like find whatever website they have and like try to get a background on them before, or ask somebody who knows about them that I don't know about or something that I don't know about. And that's how I like to come prepared as opposed to just going in cold.
Right. I think that must have been Joelle
Mm.
that did that. I don't know if we've ever talked about that, but
But we'll pass along the information
Yes.
if she ever
Yeah.
listens to it.
Yeah. She can write that in her notes and then you guys can talk about her notes that she writes.
that's
That's
right.
right.
That's
Yeah.
right. Beardo, I appreciate your time, man. I hope that you feel better. And I'm going to kick you out of here. Jay and I are going to talk about a show that you didn't watch yet. But we appreciate your time, and thank you so much, buddy. And I hope that this is not the last time that we get to chat. Hopefully it'll be about something that we... you know what? That's one thing I wanted to do on this episode is find common ground because for a long time, I have this theory in my personal life. I've been searching for years for the anti-Snell. The anti-Snell being my bizarro Snell, everything that I am not. And the world is balanced when the anti-Snell disagrees with everything that I am involved with. So at first I thought you were the anti-Snell. I don't think so anymore. And for some help, I did what you just suggested. The fact that you were looking through and stalking your guest Twitter, I did the same thing. And I noticed either last night or the night before that you are a fan of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, I used to watch it back when it was on Crackle.
Yes.
Like when it first started.
Yes.
I watched every episode. And I thought new ones were going to come out, but I guess it's just all the old ones.
Well, I think they're definitely going to do a new season. I mean, the show isn't canceled by any means, but you're right. I did expect a new season to drop the day that the entire show was put on Netflix. You'd think that it would kind of build up to that, but it didn't. But
Yeah,
there's our
that's what I
common
thought.
ground. What?
That's what I thought when I thought like they're going to debut all these shows and also a new season of shows.
Are you
But
excited
it's just
for the Letterman show that comes out tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going to watch the shit out of that.
Hell
I love
yeah.
Letterman.
No fucking way. He's my hero. He's my idol.
Really?
Yeah. David
Oh.
Letterman and Jerry Seinfeld are my two biggest heroes in life.
Get a room.
Wow. Oh, so then you loved their episode together.
Oh yeah, and everything Larry David too. I love the episode with Larry, and then of course all the cast, and when Michael Richards and Julia were on, and even the when George Costanza actually made an appearance on Comedians in Cars, which was originally a Super Bowl commercial and then ended up coming out, but that did not make it to Netflix, so you can only find that on YouTube as sort of like a bootleg video. It's got the
You guys ever watch Johnny Carson?
Yeah.
sure.
I wasn't like a big fan, but I like seeing all those stand-ups, like their first set. You're like, oh shit, that's Eddie Murphy's first set on Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Well, that was meant to be a joke. I was trying to isolate you guys, but you guys are fucking nerds. So, but I love both of you. So
I love late night.
It's just, yeah.
What
late
do you
night's the
like
best.
to what do you like to get at Starbucks, Beardo?
Plain black coffee.
I could have guessed that. Beardo.
Hey, wait, Ryan, what you've just done to Beardo, that's how you need to approach your Tinder conversations with girls. That's like how you ask them to find the common ground. Do you do that?
Yeah, don't tell him you host a podcast. Wait like a week to like release that.
I don't have to tell them that I host a podcast. It's in my bio.
Oh, that's why you get left swipes.
This is a funny thing. Okay, one time I was in a unfortunate situation, and I had to calm someone's nerves, and they asked me how I knew Ryan, and I said, "Don't worry, I podcast with him." And in their moment of absolute peril, they were crying. They just started laughing at me, and they said, "Oh my God." And it was I've learned then and there that I never need to inform anybody that I podcast on my free time.
Yeah. It's not the greatest thing to brag about, but it's fun.
Are you? It's not. I've been telling everybody.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's fun though. It's a nice hobby.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. Thank you, Beardo. I hope to talk to you very soon, buddy, and get to feeling better. All right.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.
All right. See you, buddy.
See ya.
What a weirdo. He was not picking up anything I was putting down. What an interesting person. But I'm certainly glad he was on, but it was just kind of goofy. How'd you feel about that?
I can appreciate what he said there at the end about taking notes and doing research on your guests. But that's not me. I don't do any of that. The only notes I've ever taken in my life are for this show, which I didn't do this week because of our guest. We're having a little bit more of an abrupt conversation. Is that the right word? An abbreviated conversation about what we normally talk about.
Sure, abridged.
I don't take naps and I don't take notes typically. I do like to go in cold. I like the organic nature of the conversation. But it's fascinating. I always love to hear from other creative individuals.
Beardo's a hypocrite because to that point, you'd think that he would be prepared for this show. I'm baffled that I had to tell him what my name was. He clearly did no research coming on to After Schmoe. It's pretty interesting. But he brought my greatest fear to life, and we've talked about it off air. We talked about it on air. How many people in that studio really know anything about this show? Christian and Mark do a great job, and I'm appreciative. Promoting the show, talking about the show, but Beardo is proof that nobody in that studio knows what the hell is going on over here at After Schmoe.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before, but I don't expect anybody over there to listen to the show. I don't think they should feel required to listen to the show. However, I personally think that it's beneficial to listen to the show because we discuss the community that actually takes in their content. And I know why Christian listens because he's sort of checking in on us, but he's also interested in what we have to say. He's interested in what people, a third party has to say. Sometimes you have to get that certain perspective, but it was nice having him on the show. And I don't think we never planned this. I want people to know that #transparency. We never planned to have guests like on the show in 2018. Yeah. I think it was something that we were like, we might do that. I'd like to try to keep it going as much as possible.
What?
I mean, that's obviously it's up to you, but I want to have more people on here as much as humanly possible.
Where did that Jay come from? We used to talk about all the time about.
I've been telling you that forever.
No,
I've been saying we need to have more people on the show.
Really?
What are we going to talk to them about?
I've never ever once said that. I've interviewed Lexi fucking Alexander, ridiculous. Jay. How dare you?
Ridiculous. I don't just want to hear about how they got into the Schmoe show.
Yeah, I don't want to do any of that.
You've got me now. I can take care of it.
I don't want that for the show in general. I mean, it makes me cringe thinking about that.
I would never let that happen. Just trust in me. Trust in Papa Jay. It's all good.
How can I trust in you when Christian Harloff can't even trust in you? Jay's cocky.
You can trust in me. You can trust in me now.
Jay's arrogant.
I know. I've always said it's another motto I have. If you want Christian Harloff to like you, he's got to hate you first.
It's true. So anyway, back to After Schmoe. One of the many privileges that we have here. Sometimes some of the bullshit that we say is actually taken into consideration over there. And last week, you and me and Kristen Smith had a great conversation about diversity at Collider Video. And I mean, I feel like they they answered the call here because we had Jay Washington's debut on Movie Talk, and to my knowledge, someone can correct me, and that's fine. To my knowledge, I believe it was Joelle's debut too. I don't recall ever seeing Joelle on Movie Talk, but
I don't think so. Yeah,
but man, they really answered the call, and I was excited to see those two faces that we're familiar with in the Schmoedown and Schmoe's No Show. But I was excited to see them on a Collider video. How did you take that? How did you like their debuts?
yeah, and I mean we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about the Harloff and Ellis Show, because they addressed it on there as well, which I like to hear. First of all, before we talk about this, I wanted to sort of cap off that conversation that we had last week by saying, even though I did state that Collider is doing a very good job at being progressive in the sense of being conscious of diversity. I think they are a diverse company as it is. The thing that we were saying about that was the fact that they even though they're already diverse, they are making the conscious effort to stay that way and do better. Not that they're doing bad, but progressively do better. Listen, I also want to play a little bit of a devil's advocate here. I'm doing a show on Sight and Sound's YouTube channel this year called Why People Hate, where even though I might not agree with something, I'm going to explore the reasons why people don't like something. A lot of people have a huge criticism with the idea of diversity because they think that it's not earned. They think that they're just trying to, check boxes off. Oh, we've got our this ethnicity and this ethnicity. Right. I hate that. I think that's silly for people to have that sort of mindset. But one of my favorite things about Jay Washington being on Movie Talk this week is the fact that, one, he fucking delivered. Oh my God, was he great on the show. And he earned his spot on the show by that fantastic video that he did with Roka that we talked about last week. I just thought that he killed it, man. He brought so much charisma and personality to that table. And it's so nice to get, that fresh sort of take. It had been a while since we had gotten 4 chairs at the table on Movie Talk. And he really filled it with absolute precision and professionalism, and he was such an entertaining addition to the show.
Well, it's like I talked about it last week. Like, I've been examining his Twitter account, and he's been crying out, like, please, Jay Washington has a point to prove, and he proved it. And I'm sure that he was trying very hard and worked very hard to be on his A game. And I think he delivered. I thought he did a great job. Joelle, too. I mean, it's like when you brought up that point, the devil's advocate, like, oh, yeah, it's just Collider or anybody, any organization checking boxes. It's like, okay, maybe that argument is valid if the talent isn't there. So, yes, if Jay Washington is a horrible personality, yet Collider continues to give him the platform, okay, then you can make that argument. But you can't do that here. You can't do that with Jay. You can't do that with Joelle because these people are fresh.
They prove to be competent.
They're prepared. They're fresh, and they're just talented at what they do. So I don't think anybody can make that argument. I don't want to make it seem like Collider has never done this before, but I was proud of Collider, and I was proud of those guys for showing up and doing a great job because I'm a fan of both of those guys.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll say about it, too, is the fact that so this is something that I actually noticed in the Schmoedown. Jay Washington hasn't necessarily had the greatest go of his showdown performances. And when he showed up in the Manager's Bowl, one of the things that I picked up on during his performance was just how much he fucking wanted to win. I don't know if you noticed that, but he was so adamant, and he seemed like he had prepared so much and trained for that match that I saw that similar look in his eye on the Movie Talk table. He had talked a big game online about wanting to come on and wanting to do all of these things, and he did not squander this moment. He showed up and he delivered and performed. He was one thing that I can be guilty of doing sometimes, especially on something like Sight and Sound when a news story will come when it'll come up, I'll just rattle off things off the top of my head. I mean, that comes with being, doing so many podcasts. You just like, oh, I can spin anything and make it entertaining. He was bringing additional information to the table. He had articles pulled up on his computer that he was referencing. It was fantastic. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to see Joelle's from this week, but I'm definitely going to go back and watch it.
Yeah, Jay really reminded me of myself.
Please.
So anyway, love you, Collider, and love you guys. I thought you did a great job. Are you going to miss the top 50 superhero countdown today? The day that we are recording After Schmoe, number 2 dropped. It was Logan. So the time that you are listening to the episode, you're actually listening to this, number 1 will have come out. And, we all know it's The Dark Knight. Okay, very good. But how do you feel about it now that it's wrapping up here?
It's interesting because just to sort of talk about my trajectory on it, when it started out, I watched it when it first debuted. I sort of took some time off, and then I binged a bunch of episodes consecutively, and I spoke on this show about how pleasurable that experience was. I thought it was fantastic. I'm not speaking towards the quality of the content at all, because it was absolutely fantastic. The appearance of it throughout the week did become a little bit redundant to me, so much so that I was missing it from time to time. Like, I'd go back and be like, oh shit, I can't believe I missed these episodes. So I would play catch up on them. But now I've actually haven't been watching it as frequently. And that's not down to not being interested in it or anything like that, but I'm planning on binging them again, like the top 10, just sitting down maybe like on a Saturday afternoon when I need something to watch and just binging it all the way through. But I think it's been fantastic. It seems like the discussions have gotten more and more in-depth and rich as the list has gone on, and the picks have become a little bit more meaty to talk about.
I'm just looking at the channel main page right now, Collider. They average about 50,000 plays, so I'm curious what the goal was. I'm curious if they consider this a successful experiment. What's fascinating to me, just scrolling through here, is that, again, they all average about 50,000. Wonder Woman, and I won't spoil the number for you since you care very much about spoilers, but the Wonder Woman episode has 107,000 views. So I don't know where the hell that came from. I don't know if it's because of it's due to controversy at where it's actually placed. I don't really know how, though, because I don't know, double the amount of people that are following this series watched one random episode. I don't know what's going on there. I wonder if YouTube just picked it up and it was just sort of more optimized than the others. But I just think that's really interesting.
It's probably a combination of a bunch of things. I think it's probably all the things that you said, that the heat meter is high on Gal Gadot and Wonder Woman as well, both coming off the back of the solo standalone film as well as Justice League. But for me personally, just looking at it, I think you could chalk it up as a success. I mean, it would be as much as some of the daily videos that they do for the most part, and I'm sure it'll only grow as time goes on. Now, first of all, for Collider to embark on this sort of experiment, it's a pretty hefty task they decided to do as like their sort of flagship maiden voyage on this new form of content. And I think the good news is it can only go up and get better from here. I'm anxious to see what is next for them, and I'm anxious to see the lessons that they've learned with it. I think they pulled it off essentially flawlessly. And me personally, I think it would be a success. And I don't even know if numbers even are what they would look at to call it a success. I think that's only a part of the consideration.
Right. Bring back comic book shopping. What the hell? It's been 4 months. Okay. So let's welcome back Mark Ellis, because he was missing last week. I'm glad that you are feeling better. It was confirmed that you had a vitamin IV, and Jay talked about having those random clinics out in LA where you can just pick up was that on air? Did we talk about that on air? I think we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about
I thought I was just rambling nonsense there for a minute. But I'm glad that Ellis was feeling better, because he was able to...
The better movie talk host.
I'm glad he was able to contribute to the very first episode of the Harloff and Ellis Show. Do I have that correctly? I think it's funny how many shows Christian has started that just involve his name. This is number 3 to my knowledge. And I guess he left Carpool in the dust. So
I think the real reason why he decided to leave Carpool behind, and this is just my own speculation, was purely down to the fact that it was raining in California this week, and it typically doesn't, and I think people freak out a little bit, so maybe he was just being a little bit more weary. He needed his attention on the road. Let me just say this real quick before we move on to this episode. Mark was missed on Movie Talk. I definitely missed him. I made that joke about him being the better of the two hosts, and Christian actually called me out. He said, "Oh, I'm the lesser host, huh?" He actually said that to me, and I said,
I've been saying that for months.
I said, "Yeah, well, you didn't send me a Starbucks gift card, so."
That's true. I've been saying that for months. He's never once called me out on that. Interesting. Maybe he thinks you're just.
He sent like a little winky face.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I thought he was calling you out for jumping on the bandwagon or something. But anyway, actually, no, I'm not ready to move away from Collider yet, because one quick observation: they just completely, or they have been removing the host from the show, right? Like Ellis has been reading the mailbags and reading the stories, and like there's no Mova at the table this week. Did you find that interesting?
There was Mova was on the episode with Jay Washington. That's when they had the 4 chairs.
Right, but they've just kind of been doing without, though. It's not as consistent.
Yeah, they got rid of, and I don't know what that was down to. It could have just been it was a light week. Last week when Mark wasn't there, they had Ken reading the news, and he was also an active participant in the table, which was interesting because you essentially had, well, that's not true. They did have 4, I guess, chairs last week, because you had Mark and Ken. I'm sorry, not Mark. You had Christian and Ken, and then you had 2 rotating chairs. But I like Ashley Mova's presence on the show. I think it's fantastic.
She's a goofball.
I think she adds that bubbly energy to the show that it needs, and a different perspective and an interesting perspective. And I don't know if this is the case, but I hope people don't sleep on her movie knowledge and her movie takes, because I think she gives very valid and important opinions, as funny and goofy as they might be, maybe even whimsical, if you would consider it that on the show.
I would hate to consider that word. I hate anything involving whimsy, but we talked about it last week as far as giving those guys credit. I think Ashley and Sinead are extremely capable about talking all things movies and TV. Like I think the only thing that I've really taken issue with is Natasha, because I just feel like every time they go to Natasha, she's not saying much of anything, or she's just agreeing with everybody else. But as far as like,
I'm a big fan of Natasha, because she did a news article for Complex about Frank Ocean. That makes me happy.
I hate music. I love how they kept calling me a music fan on. Well, we'll get into that. But last week we did the show. We made a joke. It was just sort of like a filler episode, because we wanted our episode count to end in the same digit that the Schmoes Know Show episode count. And it's funny because people are following along to this. A lot of people were making that joke too as well. And God bless you for paying that much of attention. But we thought that we had caught back up, but I didn't realize this, and I'm ready to talk about Harloff and Ellis number 1. I didn't realize that sort of the format and the tone of it in general was going to be that of just a completely different show. And what I mean by that, of course, it's not the live show. Of course, it's not built the same way. Of course, it's not as loose. Of course, it doesn't have that many personalities. I'm talking about strictly in comparison to what they were sort of doing at the end of last year, where it was just the side-by-side, the two cameras, them at the main, well, not the main table, but the secondary table. They didn't even do that. They sat down and just chatted on a couch, and it was about whatever they wanted. Of course, they happened to discuss some movie stuff, Golden Globes, things like that, but it really, really felt like anything goes. And those are, at the end of last year, we sort of got a few of those moments, and I talked about how fresh that really was, because I really, really realized we hadn't really seen a whole lot, at least lately, of Christian and Mark just enjoying each other, enjoying each other's company, laughing at each other, and getting to talk to one another. They don't get to do that on the live show. And I sort of felt validated, too, because over the past few months on this show, I've sort of cried out for something. I didn't think it would be in... I can't think of the word, I'm blanking. I didn't think it would be at the expense of the live show that they would do this. Unfortunately, that is the case. But I've been crying out for a Mark and Christian thing, a more of Mark and Christian. And I got it, man. I really, really liked this episode. Again, I was taken aback by the packaging, but overall, it was just a fun time. How did you unpack all this?
Yeah, I think as we do, we sort of pay attention to some strange things, and I was really, really noticing the set change and how that affected the tone of the show, and I loved it, and I appreciated it, and I don't think I ever really realized it before, but the fact that they moved out of the Schmoe's side of the Collider studio and just into what looked to be like an office area with that couch, taking that split screen away made it seem so much more personal. And one big change that I noticed, and we've talked about it before, but Mark's sort of host persona, I think, is more elevated when he's got those other cameras around him, when he's got those lights on him and all of that. It seemed like he was taken down to a more comfortable, a more relatable notch, and that's nothing disparaging against Mark at all. It's just I could tell that he was a little bit more relaxed. In fact, the only time that I was taken out of the show was actually when they did giveaways. I felt like that broke up the show. It made it seem a little bit more like they were talking to the camera, whereas 90% of the show, it felt like I was just a fly on the wall of two friends just hanging out, and I really appreciated it, and I really liked it. It gave it a new flavor and a different twist on things that I didn't anticipate going into it.
So what if they sort of changed up how they did it? I know that it's not live, but just because this is the first thing that popped up into my head, should they just kind of call out to Schmoeville and say, hey, comment below and tell us what you thought about this? And then the winner gets blah, 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 blah. That way you don't spend a whole lot of time on giveaways, and it could just be part of the sign-off or maybe the beginning of the show, as opposed to just like stopping and saying, hey, let's do giveaways now.
Well, I don't think that's not really a criticism with the giveaways. I'm just saying that's the only time that I noticed it being a little bit different. In fact, it might even break things up in a nice way that they do it, the way that they do it. I don't have a problem with how they do it. I think the only criticism I would have of the show, or the thing that I would like to see change a little bit, is I just want a little bit more. I've never been a huge fan of hour-long episodes like that, where it is conversation based. It just feels like an hour cuts the conversation off a little too shortly. And I know they had a screening to go to and all of that. I would like to see personally an hour 20 to an hour 30-minute show of some sort. And if they need to build a break in, where they advertise After Schmoe, that's fine. But I would just like to see a little bit more in terms of the length of the show.
Yeah, Christian didn't say a word about Beardo being on the show, but I don't know. I don't know if I was bothered by the length so much. I'm assuming you did watch it. You didn't, because sometimes you listen to them as podcasts. You watched this, right?
Yeah, I did. I watched it because I was honestly eager to see it. And listen, I guess we'll say this now. This show could be changing a little bit in the sense that if they are going to be releasing these earlier in the day on Wednesday, then we will probably be able to, time pending, be able to do After Schmoe on Wednesday nights, where we couldn't do that prior to. So we might be getting the show out earlier. I'm sure that's something we'll have to discuss off air. But
don't give Christian any ideas. I don't know if it would ever go out earlier per se, because that would be changing the schedule of SK Plus that's in place. But we definitely get to accomplish it quicker. That's for sure. But yeah, I don't know. That was something that we tried to do. It just didn't work out this week. But I don't know. That is definitely a possibility. I'm not afraid per se. I do think it's interesting though. I was watching this show, and I don't know. You guys might have noticed we didn't even do Jay's stream of consciousness notes because there weren't any.
I said that. I mentioned that I didn't do those because we were going to have Beardo on the show. Well, real quick, let me just throw this out there. I think the next big change and the thing that I'm interested in is the incorporation of another guest on the show when they do bring that individual in. I'm anxious to see how that goes. I'm not ready for them to do it quite yet. I'm sure Christian will be like, well, we're going to do it anyways, and that's fine because it's
I think it's already next week that they're having that guest.
That's fine. But I kind of want to settle in with just the two of them for a few episodes. That's just me personally. That's what I would like to see. But I get it. You want to have people on. You want to give people a vibe. But I am anxious to see what it's like with more people.
I am 100% in agreement with you. And going back to sort of what I said at the open, like I was crying out for a Mark and Christian thing, and it's not enough just to have this week. It's just not enough. I would absolutely love to see more of that before they just start bringing on guests because, I mean, the way that I imagine it, I don't know, maybe they'll go back to the sets, but the way I imagine it is like another Josh McCouga show, if you will, where the couch is going to belong to the guest and then Christian and Mark are going to be behind the desk and they're going to play games with each other. No, I that's what I imagine for next week, but I'm not quite there yet. I agree with you as well. But again, ultimately, I think going back to the point we made with Beardo, all of this is going to help, I think, build up anticipation for when we do get those live shows. So I'm interested in how we respond to that as well and how they respond to it, frankly, because that might make every live show have like double the amount of energy. I mean, it might just build up in them and they're going to let it stew like, man, I really want a live show. I can't wait for next month. And then they're just going to explode and have the craziest extravaganza ever. I cannot wait to see sort of what the response is to all of that.
Two final points from me. One thing that I don't want them to sleep on is the fact that, yeah, it's nice to get guests and bring guests in and talk to new people. That's all well and good. But I would also like to see a Ken or a Riley or a Makuga or even a JTE come in and just have them be the third person every now and then and have more intimate sort of discussions with them as opposed to just getting them on the live show only. I think that would be fascinating as well, and I think that's a good way to sort of provide a middle ground between what they're doing now and the live show. It's like, okay, well, you can't have this, but at least we can sort of find this middle ground here. That's one point, and I'll let you address it in a second. But I also want to throw a big shout out to what, in my opinion, is probably the most unsung or the biggest unsung heroes of the episode, and something that I hope didn't go too unnoticed. But I think the inclusion of Cobster and Cody somewhere in that room in the background, even though they're off camera and off mic, I actually think it's important to adding to the show. The fact that Mark can refer to or reference somebody else besides Christian in the room, I think it's a big thing.
Yeah, they're like Gelman on Live with Regis and not Regis, Live with Kelly and whoever the hell her co-host
Michael
is
Stipe.
now. They're like Gelman. They're off camera and they're there when needed. I do think it's kind of funny that they're just kind of watching them. Like what are they doing?
I think it's important.
Like I know somebody.
I think it's important because, I mean, you and I do a podcast, just us together, but imagine, I have no doubt in my mind that if there was somebody else in the room, I mean, Kayla, my girlfriend, she's been in the room with us before, things are just a little bit different, and I think for the best, because you have just somebody else to kind of like look at, if anything.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, I just had nothing to contribute. That's on me. I liked it. Can't wait to see more. 2018 is bound to be interesting this way, and I don't think a lot of people are settled in yet. Like you talked about being settled in. I haven't looked at the comments yet, but there were a few that I got notifications of, and people were. Actually, let me go to some.
I think I saw those too.
Radio.
Listen, okay, I don't frequent the YouTube comments that often on the Schmoe shows, or Collider for that matter. Sometimes it can become a cesspool, and I have no problem saying that. You had commented, and I was on our YouTube channel. I saw some of the responses, and they were kind of nothing. Like they were like we were kind of joking. Or you were joking, and people were like responding and taking you seriously. I was just like, "What are we talking about here?"
Someone said, and this was the most confusing comment that I saw. He goes, "I mean, I'll give this a watch, but at first glance, seems a redundancy." What the hell?
What does that mean?
I have no idea. I'll miss the live shows. It's good, but it's not the live show. It's like okay, yeah, I get it. Really like this more relaxed format. See, I can get on board with that.
But were you offering like not that people can't say whatever they want to say? It's not a big deal. But were you even looking for commentary like based off of your comment that you made?
Sorry, but I don't like this. I want the banner. That came from Jesse Pinkman. So science, bitch. I don't know. Chris Skaliski making fun of it. It's quote unquote cold in Burbank. Yeah, hilarious. It was like -3 degrees where we're from. I don't know. That's all I got. We petered out here. It's late.
Speak for yourself, moron.
It's late.
I quoted Billy Madison.
It could be our milk.
No milk will ever be our milk.
I think the last thing I want to say, and it's funny because Billy Madison reminded me of this. I think Christian referenced Billy Madison on Instagram. He's posting all these pictures of him and with celebrities at Critics' Choice. And it's a real shame that Ellis missed out on that experience because sort of going back to how I feel and how there's so much admiration, at least from me, and I think from the rest of the community, when you get to see those two do things like this, when they're allowed, because, and there's a part of me that, like, especially when I first started watching those guys, it was sort of like they were a celebrity in a way, but the more time you spend with them online, you realize that, they're friends, and I think that's another thing that's great about Schmoeville is that we're just kind of all in this together. But we are privileged in that we get to see how far those two have gone. So it was really awesome. It's been really awesome to see Christian post all of these pictures of him at the Critics' Choice Award. And one of his captions was even said, like, this started with us making YouTube videos. And so I was just... there was a lot of admiration, and I was really happy for them. But also, I wish that Ellis really could have been a part of that. I don't know if he's bummed out about it or not. Maybe he's not. Maybe he doesn't care if he didn't get to go. But I don't know. I just kind of thought that was really cool, and I hope that he's not missing out. But I really would have loved to have seen them there with Christian.
The one that got me in the feels was him with Stuckman and some other guy. I wasn't sure who that other guy was. I'm new to the space.
Yeah. I don't know.
Anyways, the picture was just nice because obviously they go so far back, and Chris Stuckman called into the show as a fan, and look how far he's come. And I just think it's so special, and it's so nice that this is a night that obviously it's celebrating film, but it's also celebrating the critics, which these guys are for sure. No matter what some silly college tells you, yeah, the people on YouTube are viable critics in the film industry as well. So congrats to the people that got to go.
So I'm a critic?
No, you're a pundit.
Jaye Williams, where can the people find you online?
Find me at Jaye Williams, J to the A to the Y to the E on Twitter and Instagram. It's the same for both. You can also find me every single Friday talking music, all the new releases, that came out this week over on Sight and Sound. There's a plethora of content over on Sight and Sound. Go hang out with us. Go support us. We are marching to 1,000 subscribers. I don't know why I say marching. It just sounds like something that you do when you're trying to get from one distance to another. You don't want to walk. You don't want to run. So we march as a collective. Where can they find you online?
It's more of a saunter. But anyway, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WhatUpSnell. Jay's right. A lot of stuff happening over at Sight and Sound. We've put out, I think, we will have put out 4 podcasts this week after tomorrow on Jay's music show. So a lot of things happening over there. You can join the Facebook group. A lot of us, we're almost at 200 people in the Facebook group. We're having a lot of fun just discussing anything and everything pop culture. And you guys are more than welcome to join. You just have to know our names. So I don't know how Beardo got into the Facebook group. He might have to be kicked out until he can assure us that he knows who the hell we are. We want to thank Beardo for joining us, and we love you, Schmoeville. We'll see you next time.